So my name is Jim Coker from Albuquerque, New Mexico, 512. I am here with the Vector sequencer. This is one of the final pre-production prototypes. It is a digital sequencer in Eurorack format, uses a classic analog style editing interface with 8 knobs and 8 switches that are also a mini keyboard for editing your parts. There are many edit pages, almost all of them you can reach with a single button press. There are 8 parts with lots of flexible routing options for the output. It has both MIDI and CV outputs. So I have a single part running here. All the pitches are visible. You can see the note names. There's a global key and scale, so it's very easy to stay within the scale. You can flip over to gate mode, very easily modify the gate values. You can use the 9th encoder here to adjust all of them at once. Or I can select some steps and edit those together. I can go back over to pitch mode, edit those together as well. Shift select to clear them. We have skip steps, so turn on skips. I can skip steps, clear those mutes as well. We have velocity controls, which for analog CV is basically just a generic CV you can use anywhere. Step length, built-in ratchet function. There are chance operations. There are about 40 operations. For each step, you can pick the operation. You can say what the probability is that operation will happen. This one here on step 4 is jump backwards to some step. You can even set it to say 100%, but say it only happens every 4 bars, which is really, really handy for doing drum patterns with fills. Each of the 8 parts has 2 sub-sequencers for internal modulation, which is really great when, say, you want to do a transposition by semitones or octaves. You want to make sure it's always perfect timing. And in this case it is, because it's all internal. Main sequence controls on this page. Currently all the sequences are 16 steps. It'll be up to 64 by the time I ship. Say what the start step is, the length. These can both be modulated, so you can easily window through a sequence. Direction, forward, backward, alternating modes, random. Hard sync allows you to force reset every so many beats. Like if you have a 5-step sequence, you can have it easily reset every 2 bars by setting this to 8 beats. All common musical divisions for rate. There are also a couple of alternate modes for off-tempo things, so you can have sequences that don't fit any musical grid. They're completely free. Also modulatable. Octave setting here. Semitone transposition. There are 20 presets for each of the parts. That will eventually double to 40. And there is a scene mode where you can see all the presets across all parts. You'll be able to scroll down, pick a new set of presets for the next scene, trigger that on a bar line. I have a part page where you can see activity for all the parts. So we have a synth line here. I have chords coming out of the Yamaha DX here. Parts 7 and 8 are bass drum and hi-hat. There's a mute mode, so I can go in and mute these parts, turn them back on. There's an SD card on the back, saves your work. It auto saves in the background as you work. When you turn it on in the morning, it auto loads your last project. So one of the big things are just these 2 displays, right? It makes it very easy to see where you're at. You can always see the parameters you're editing, what the exact values are. There are a couple of tricks I've been adding, so you can shift, turn, and encoder in pitch mode, and it shifts by an octave. So instead of like with a traditional analog sequencer, you got to hunt around and use a quantizer, you're never quite sure. Here you have a 10-octave range of notes, and you can know exactly which notes you're hitting. The presets allow you to easily build longer compositions. The chance operations allow you to, even with an 8 or 16-step pattern, build patterns that evolve and change over time. The little trick with chance operations on bar number 4 make it really, really easy to build interesting drum patterns. You can have a pattern that varies a little bit on every bar, and then on the last bar has a big variation, without having to do multiple presets, without having to specify how the changes are exactly. You just get a little change each time. So I'm also really big about being able to integrate both with modular and MIDI equipment and other equipment. So there are lots of MIDI outputs as well as the CV outs. The expander is relatively new. I think I just started showing it a couple months ago. If you have a big modular system, it gives you lots of outputs, or you can always plug in an extra MIDI CV interface if you want. Or if you don't have any modular equipment, you can just get a small case with this and a power supply and use it with MIDI. There's USB host and device on it with class compliant MIDI. You can plug in an iPad, sequence an iPad. You can plug in a small keyboard. In this case, the DX is great because it's both a sound source and a keyboard. Or you can plug in a really small keyboard that just has USB. So it's a really deep sequencer. If you want to just use it, you could just use it for 8 steps, right? Or maybe 2 parts. You can use it at a very light level just for the simple sequences, and then as you become more comfortable, you can dig in a little further and a little further, right? You don't have to spend hours and hours reading the manual just to figure out how to get something going, right? So I need to do one more verification, just a few small changes, basically just resistor values, verify those. Production starts this summer, hopefully shipping in August. $699 US for the main unit, $359 for the expander. It will ship a few weeks later, starting. So yeah, almost there.